would this be? Last week's?
Monsieur?
The old man looked bewildered. Never mind. Dillon lit another cigarette, sat back, and waited. The man who stood closest to the curtain, peering through, was in his mid-50s, of medium height, with a slightly decadent look to his face, the fur collar of his dark overcoat turned up against the cold. He looked like a prosperous businessman, right down to the gold Rolex on his left wrist, which, in a way, he was, as a senior commercial attaché at the Soviet embassy in Paris. He was also a colonel in the KGB, one Joseph Makeyev. The younger, dark-haired man in the expensive vicuña overcoat, who peered over his shoulder, was called Michael Aroun. He whispered in French, "This is ridiculous. He can't be our man. He looks like nothing." "A serious mistake many people have made, Michael," Makeyev said. "Now wait and see." The bell tinkled as the outer door swung open, rain blowing in, and the two men entered who had been waiting in the doorway as Dillon crossed the square. One of them was over 6 feet tall, bearded, an ugly scar running into the right eye. The other was much smaller, and they were dressed in reefer coats and denims. They looked exactly what they were: trouble. They stood at the bar, and the old man looked worried. "No trouble," the younger one said. "We only want a drink." The big man turned and looked at Dillon. "It seems as if we've got one right here." He crossed to the table, picked up Dillon's glass, and drank from it. "Our friend doesn't mind, do you?" Without getting out of his chair, Dillon raised his left foot and stamped downwards against the bearded man's kneecap. The man went down with a choked cry, grabbing at the table, and Dillon stood. The bearded man tried to pull himself up and sank into one of the chairs. His friend took a hand from his pocket, springing the blade of a gutting knife, and Dillon's left hand came up holding the Walther PPK. "On the bar. Christ, you never learn, people like you, do you? Now get this piece of dung on his feet and out of here, while I'm still in a good mood. You'll need the casualty department of the nearest hospital, by the way. I seem to have dislodged his kneecap." The small man went to his friend and struggled to get him on his feet. They stood there for a moment, the bearded man's face twisted in agony. Dillon went and opened the door, the rain pouring relentlessly down outside. As they lurched past him, he said, "Have a good night," and closed the door. Still holding the Walther in his left hand, he lit a cigarette, using a match from the stand on the bar, and smiled at the old barman, who looked terrified. "Don't worry, Dad. Not your problem." Then he leaned against the bar and called in English, "All right, Makeyev. I know you're there, so let's be having you." The curtain parted, and Makeyev and Aroun stepped through. "My dear Sean, it's good to see you again." "And aren't you the wonder of the world?" Dillon said, just the trace of an Ulster accent in his voice. "1 minute trying to stitch me up, the next all sweetness and light." "It was necessary, Sean," Makeyev said. "I needed to make a point to my friend here. Let me introduce you." "No need," Dillon told him. "I've seen his picture often enough. If it's not on the financial pages, it's usually in the society magazines. Michael Aroun, isn't it? The man with all the money in the world." "Not quite all, Mr. Dillon." Aroun put a hand out. Dillon ignored it. "We'll skip the courtesies, my old son, while you tell whoever is standing on the other side of that curtain to come out." "Rashid, do as he says," Aroun called, and said to Dillon, "It's only my aide." The young man who stepped through had a dark, watchful face, and wore a leather car coat, the collar turned up, his hands thrust deep in the pockets. Dillon knew a professional when he saw one. "Plain view." He motioned with the Walther. Rashid actually smiled and took his hands from his pockets. "Good," Dillon said. "I'll be on my way then." He turned and got the door open. Makeyev said, "Sean, be reasonable. We only want to talk. A job, Sean." "Sorry, Makeyev."